She told me she was taking our son to a speech therapist, but the drone showed her kissing her ex outside his apartment. That's how it started. No confrontation, no shouting. Just me, Ryan 38, design engineer, built to solve problems quietly. I didn't scream. I built a surveillance network. That day, I was just testing the FPV drone, a project I'd been refining for weeks. Full headset, live feed, GPS lock. I watched the neighborhood unfold like blueprints. Then I caught her, Lauren, my wife, getting out of Chris's SUV like she belonged there. She laughed. He touched her lower back like it was routine. Then came the kiss, like they didn't even care who could see. I recorded it, downloaded the file, copied it twice, created a new folder on an isolated server and labeled it Archive. That night, she kissed me on the cheek and told me traffic was awful. I nodded. The next morning, I installed a hidden camera in her car, synced her route data to the drone, set automated flights. If she wanted to live a double life, I'd record both sides. Lauren said she was taking Alex to the clinic again. Speech therapy. Same office. Same time slot. But her car didn't go to the clinic. It went to a residential building on Pine and 6th. I knew the street. I knew the layout. And thanks to the drone, I now knew the code to the front gate. Chris lived there. Of course he did. This time she brought Alex inside. He was supposed to be working on his R's and S's. Instead, he was sitting on someone else's couch while his mother played house in a 2-bedroom apartment that didn't belong to us. They stayed for nearly 3 hours. No rush, no panic. She even stopped for coffee on the way home like it was a normal errand. That night, she left the paper receipt on the counter. Kept it. It wasn't just her actions that bothered me. It was how ordinary she made the lie look. Later that week, my mother-in-law called while I was in the garage. She didn't know her voice was being recorded from the Bluetooth sync in Lauren's car. She was on speaker, talking fast, tight, the way people do when they think they're planning something clever. If Ryan doesn't sign the waiver, she said, we'll just have to push the diagnosis. Say it's behavioral, maybe borderline autistic. They'll never give custody to someone who doesn't accept that. I stopped sorting bolts. She wasn't talking about protecting Alex. She was talking about using him. That night, I pulled my credit reports. There were 3 loans under my name. 2 I never signed. 1 I'd never even heard of. Medical hardship issued last month with a forged signature that didn't even match mine. The repayment address? Chris's zip code. Lauren wasn't being careless. She was being careful, just not careful enough. There's a difference between suspicion and certainty. I had video. I had GPS logs. I had the lies recorded in her own voice. But what I didn't have yet was the master plan. So I called in a favor. Kevin and I worked together years ago on a software integration project. Brilliant guy, antisocial, but loyal if you treated him like a person instead of a tool. I helped him land his next contract. He owed me. I need access to my wife's email, I told him. He didn't even ask why. Just sent me a login key with a disclaimer. I don't want to know what you're looking for. I didn't blame him. What I found wasn't just infidelity. It was a 4-month strategy document, disguised as legal prep. She wasn't trying to leave me. She was trying to erase me. The email threads with her attorney were organized, clinical, and methodical. Subject lines like custody plan, early draft, and mitigating risk, mental health angle. I read every word. Her lawyer. If we position him as emotionally unresponsive, we may be able to introduce the need for supervised visitation. Lauren's reply, he doesn't yell. He just detaches. It'll be believable. They were building a case. One attachment outlined how to characterize me in court. Overly logical. Lacks emotional connection. Potential control issues masked by passivity. They were going to turn my calm into a threat. Buried further down, I found something worse. Emails between Lauren and my mother-in-law, Marianne. She wasn't just aware of the plan. She was helping write it. If we say he scared the boy once, just once, we can get witnesses. I'll talk to the neighbor. They were rehearsing. This wasn't a divorce. This was a production. And I wasn't going to interrupt it. I was gonna let them walk all the way to the stage, lights on, audience seated, and hand them the script they'd written with all the pages replaced. You learn a lot by watching people who think you're not watching. Lauren still kissed me goodnight, still asked me to pick up paper towels, still left the baby monitor on, even though Alex hadn't needed it in years. A woman playing normal like it was muscle memory. I let her, because by then I had a lawyer of my own. Ava Kerrigan. Mid-40s, steel backbone, zero interest in drama. First thing she said was, do not confront her. Let her keep talking. Every lie she tells is another receipt. So I did. I kept the drone in the air. Kept the hidden mic synced to her car's Bluetooth. Added one inside the house, inside a cheap digital clock I mounted near the front door. Nothing fancy. Just enough to hear the rehearsals. Because that's what they were. Chris, Lauren, Marianne, sitting in the living room while Alex played in the next room. Say he raised his voice, Marianne said one evening. Once. That's all we need. We'll tell the judge the child flinched. That'll stick. Chris chimed in because of course he did. He's too cold to be a dad anyway. Alex barely talks around him. Lauren didn't argue. She just nodded. They weren't nervous. They were confident. Because they thought I had no idea. The next day, I bought a burner phone and a storage unit across town. Started duplicating the evidence twice over. One set for my lawyer. One for me. One, in case neither of us made it to court. I wasn't scared. Not anymore. I was building a case the way I'd build a prototype. Tight seams. Stable structure. No weak points. Let them file. Let them lie. Let them witness. Because when it came time to speak, I wouldn't need to raise my voice. I'd have the facts in 4K, timestamped and tagged. I told Lauren I had a last-minute business trip to Germany. Design Summit. Stuttgart. 10 days minimum. She barely looked up from her phone. Bring me back those chocolate pretzels, she said, like I was going to the grocery store, not across an ocean. I smiled, kissed her on the forehead, and drove 30 minutes in the opposite direction. I'd already signed the lease on a short-term rental, a 2-room unit in a beat-up complex across from Chris's building. No windows on the street side. Cash paid. Utilities included. The kind of place nobody asks questions about. That night, I installed 2 outdoor cameras. One pointed at his front door. One angled low on the street entrance. Motion-activated, cloud-synced. Then came the audio, a directional mic installed through the air duct that fed into his hallway. It took less than 48 hours before the feed started coming in. Lauren wasn't just visiting. She was nesting. Sometimes she came with Alex. Sometimes without. Sometimes she stayed long enough to order food. Once, she brought her overnight bag, the same one we'd used on our last anniversary trip. Chris would open the door and kiss her like it was routine. She'd laugh like she didn't have a mortgage and a husband and a child under the same roof. They didn't close the windows. Didn't lower their voices. Because they thought I was halfway across Europe giving PowerPoint presentations to other engineers who didn't know how to make eye contact. That week, I watched Alex color at Chris's kitchen table. Watched him fall asleep on a couch that wasn't mine. Watched Lauren tell Chris it won't be long now. The paperwork's ready. He's not going to fight me. I took notes. I labeled timestamps. I kept every clip. Because the second she filed for custody, I needed more than suspicion. I needed the full broadcast. The envelope came on a Thursday. Unmarked. Hand-delivered by a courier in khakis who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. I thanked him, closed the door, and opened it in the kitchen like it was junk mail. Petition for termination of parental rights, Ryan Carter. Simple, clinical language. The kind that's meant to look boring until you realize it's a legal attempt to erase you from your child's life. She didn't even go for joint custody. She went nuclear. Full removal. Supervised visits only. Cited emotional unavailability, detachment, and concerning patterns of withdrawn behavior. I flipped to the last page. Marianne and Chris were listed as character references. There it was in print, the family portrait she'd been painting behind my back. The quiet, robotic husband. The lonely child. The strong single mother supported by her longtime friend. They had it all figured out. And I let them. I called Ava, my attorney, and read the first paragraph aloud. She didn't sound surprised. They're walking into it, she said. Don't stop them. We had every piece lined up. GPS log showing Lauren's car parked at Chris's overnight. Drone footage of Alex entering that building. Time-stamped records showing Alex was not at his registered address. Car audio of Marianne discussing falsifying behavioral claims. Hidden camera footage of them rehearsing testimony. We documented everything. We prepped the chain of custody. We synced the hard drives. All we had to do now was wait for our turn to speak. The court date came faster than I expected. I showed up early, sat in the hallway while Lauren walked past me without a glance. She looked confident. Like she'd already won. Like she was about to deliver the final speech in a courtroom drama. She didn't realize I'd been filming my version the whole time. She wasn't expecting me. That was obvious from the way Lauren's smile froze the second I stepped into the courtroom. Chris flinched like someone had flipped on the lights in a room he wasn't supposed to be in. Marianne went pale. Almost offended. Like I'd crashed their dinner party. My lawyer stood. Your Honor, Ryan Carter, father of the minor, is present and represented. The judge blinked. Looked at the other table. Lauren's attorney stammered. We were under the impression Mr. Carter had waived. I didn't, I said calmly. I've been waiting. Ava opened the binder. For inches thick, tabbed and sorted. We'd like to enter a supplemental response to the petitioner's claims, including video, audio, and physical documentation relevant to the welfare of the child. The judge nodded. Proceed. And just like that we began. Exhibit A, drone footage. Lauren exiting Chris's SUV. Kissing him. Leaving with Alex from his building during hours she claimed their son was in therapy. Exhibit B, audio recordings. Marianne on speaker in Lauren's car openly discussing how to manipulate medical narratives and discredit me as unstable. Exhibit C, GPS logs. Alex's location over a 3-week span showing repeated overnight stays in Chris's apartment, an address never approved or disclosed. The courtroom stayed quiet except for the occasional turning of a page. Lauren didn't speak. Neither did Chris. Then came the clincher. Bank loan documents in my name with mismatched signatures and repayment addresses that led directly to Lauren's new life. It wasn't a case anymore. It was a timeline. A full narrative down to the timestamp of how they tried to erase me and how I let them think they had. Ava leaned in. This is just the first file, Your Honor. And I watched something shift in Lauren's eyes. The beginning of doubt. The end of control. Just as her lawyer tried to regroup, stammering something about context and intent, Ava stood again. Your Honor, she said, flipping to a red-marked tab in the binder, we have one final exhibit for today. The judge raised an eyebrow. Proceed. Ava slid a document across the table. Life insurance paperwork. Issued 3 months prior. Insured party, Alexander Carter, age 7. Policy amount, $250,000. Beneficiary, Lauren Carter. Cosigner, Ryan Carter. Only, of course, I never signed a thing. The signature was neat. Careful. Almost perfect. But not mine. There's more, Ava continued. In the application, Lauren submitted medical information stating the child was being evaluated for a severe neurological disorder. Risk of permanent disability. She submitted forged evaluations, 2 of which reference a doctor who does not exist. The courtroom didn't gasp. This wasn't TV, but I saw the judge's face go still. The insurance company has already opened an internal investigation, Ava added. They're preparing a formal fraud report. We have copies of all correspondence. Lauren didn't say a word. Her hands stayed in her lap. Even Marianne looked rattled now, like she'd boarded a train she thought was heading to a clean custody win and suddenly realized the track was falling out from under her. I kept my eyes on Alex's name on the document. My kid. My son. A human being turned into leverage on paper by a woman who used to say I was the only man she could ever trust. They didn't just lie to a judge. They lied to an insurance company. And that's not family court. That's federal. I didn't smile. Didn't gloat. Just sat back and listened as Ava requested a pause in proceedings in light of potential criminal referrals now in motion. Lauren finally looked at me. Not with rage. Not with regret. Just the hollow stare of someone who's realizing she bet everything on a game she didn't understand and played it against someone who reads the rules before touching the board. The judge didn't recess. He didn't ask for further testimony. He didn't need to. He glanced through Ava's stack one more time, then removed his glasses and folded his hands, the way people do when the outcome is no longer up for debate. Ms. Carter, he said evenly, this court finds clear evidence of willful deception, including misrepresentation of medical conditions, forgery of legal documents, and improper housing arrangements for the minor child. Lauren shifted in her seat. Custody will be granted in full to Mr. Carter, effective immediately. Ms. Carter will retain visitation privileges, pending psychological evaluation and family monitoring. I didn't move. Just nodded. The judge turned to her again. Additionally, you are hereby removed as a medical proxy. All future decisions regarding the child's health, education, and financial welfare will be made solely by Mr. Carter. Then, like he'd been waiting for this part, he looked at Marianne. As for Ms. Townsend, her maiden name, that stung. You are barred from unsupervised contact with the minor until a separate hearing can be scheduled to evaluate your role in the attempted misrepresentation of the child's condition. Marianne's lips parted. She looked ready to protest. The judge raised a hand. We're done here. Court adjourned. Gavel down. Ava leaned toward me. You okay? I nodded. Yeah. Outside the courtroom, reporters weren't waiting. There were no cameras. No one clapped me on the back or offered a movie deal. Just the woman who lied sitting on a bench beside the mother who taught her how. Both quiet. Both still. For the first time in a long time. I didn't look at them. I didn't need to. There was no victory dinner. No high fives. No champagne. Just paperwork. After the ruling, I signed 6 separate documents with Ava: custody transfers, medical authority, financial control. It all felt oddly mechanical, like finalizing a blueprint I'd been working on for months. Because I had. Lauren didn't reach out. Not that day. Not the next. She'd gone from attack mode to radio silence. And honestly, I preferred it that way. Marian tried once. A message left on my old landline, the kind of half apology that's really just a plea to preserve her image. We didn't mean for it to go this far, Ryan. You have to understand, we were just trying to do what was best for Alex. I didn't call back. Instead, I met with a financial investigator. Filed the fraud report. Froze all joint accounts. Moved everything tied to my name under legal protection. Chris's name showed up on 2 of the forged loan apps. As a co-borrower. Nice touch. The insurance company sent me a letter 2 weeks later, formal investigation underway. And a courtesy call from a claims manager who sounded about 1 bad day away from turning the whole case over to federal authorities. I didn't press. Let the dominoes fall without me. Alex started sleeping better. That's how I knew things were shifting. No more nightmares. No more sudden wake-ups in the middle of the night asking, where are we going today, like he'd been dragged around without a map. He started drawing again, too. Pictures of buildings. Machines. Something in the wiring must have stuck. One night I found a sketch he'd made on the back of a cereal box, a drone with big eyes and arms. I kept it. Because he didn't know the whole story. Not yet. But somehow part of him understood. I found the memory card by accident. Buried in the glove compartment under old receipts and a packet of expired wet wipes. The same card from the very first drone flight, the one that caught Lauren getting out of Chris's SUV like it was just another Tuesday. It had been there the whole time. A piece of quiet truth no one else had seen. I'd backed up everything to servers and cloud drives, encrypted folders, and redundant storage. But this was the raw feed. The start of it all. I sat in the driveway, engine off, Alex asleep in the back seat with his hoodie zipped up like a blanket. The card felt so small in my hand. Plastic. Fragile. But I knew the weight of it. It wasn't just evidence. It was the moment the switch flipped, when I stopped trusting, stopped hoping, stopped assuming that things could be fixed with one good conversation. I didn't need to watch it again. I'd seen the footage enough times to know every frame. The way she tilted her head when she smiled. The way he touched the back of her neck. The part where she looked both ways and still kissed him anyway. There was no rage left in me. No urge to scream or throw it or hand-deliver it to her with a sarcastic note. That would have been easy. Honest, even. But that's not who I am. I looked at the card for a long time. Then I snapped it in half. Clean break. 2 pieces. No drama. Just silence. Because the war was over. And holding on to the first bullet doesn't make you a survivor. It makes you a prisoner. I didn't announce anything. There was no Instagram post. No moving on montage. Just a Wednesday morning with cereal and cartoons and one sleepy 7-year-old sitting on the kitchen stool in a shirt 2 sizes too big. Alex looked at me and said, "We don't have to go anywhere today, right?" I said, "No, bud. We're home." And that was that. I packed up the last of Lauren's things, what she didn't come back for. A few sweaters. A mug from Cabo. A necklace I never saw her wear, tucked in the back of the medicine cabinet like she forgot it meant something once. I didn't throw them out. I just boxed them quietly and left them by the front door. She didn't pick them up. And I didn't remind her. At night, I'd catch Alex talking to his stuffed bear, the same one he wouldn't let go of during the court dates. I never listened in. I figured if I could have my secrets, he could too. We went to the hardware store on Saturday. Bought paint for his room. Blue-gray, like storm clouds. He said it looked cool, but not sad. Fair enough. I watched him sleep that night. Arms stretched out, covers tangled around his legs. Peaceful. Solid. Something I hadn't seen in a long time. And I realized, for all the chaos, all the lies, all the theater, Lauren never broke him. She tried to use him, shape him into a bargaining chip, but she never reached the part of him that mattered. Because for all her manipulation, all her effort to control the narrative, she never understood this. Love doesn't perform. It shows up. Every day. Quietly. Without applause. So that's what I did. I showed up. It came on a Tuesday. A message from Lauren. Short. No subject line. No greeting. Just 5 words. Do you hate me now? That was it. No apology. No ownership. No explanation for the court case, the lies, the insurance fraud, the forged loans, or the plan to turn me into a stranger in my own son's life. Just a question. Not even a real one, more like a probe to see if the door was still open. I stared at it for a long time. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel vindicated either. I just felt finished. What do you even say to someone who spent 4 months building a legal case designed to erase you? What do you say to someone who lied while holding your child's hand? I didn't answer. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but because nothing I could say would land. Not the facts. Not the hurt. Not the truth. She already knew all of it. I deleted the message. Not because it hurt. Because it didn't. That was the moment I realized I wasn't waiting anymore, not for closure, not for justice, not for an apology that would never arrive in the right shape. The story was over. It had an ending. Not a satisfying one, maybe, but a clean one. She lost custody. She lost access. She lost control of the narrative. And I got to be a father, not a defendant. I spent that evening folding laundry while Alex watched a nature show. He asked if birds miss their nests when they leave. I said sometimes. And he nodded like that made perfect sense. I didn't plan to see them again. But life has a sense of timing. It was the day I signed the final financial affidavit, the one that ended all shared responsibility. Ava slid the papers across the table, I initialed all 4 corners, and just like that, there was nothing left legally tying me to Lauren. No accounts. No medical proxies. No overlapping authority. Just one exhausted man, one good lawyer, and a kid at home who finally had a bedroom that felt like his. On the way out, I passed the old bench near the courthouse steps. They were sitting there. Lauren and Marianne. No arguing. No whispering. Just 2 women who looked like they'd run out of scripts. Marianne had her hands folded like she was waiting for something, maybe a second chance, maybe a camera crew. Lauren looked down, elbows on knees, staring at nothing. They didn't see me at first. I kept walking. Keys in hand, no hesitation. Then Lauren looked up. I don't know what she expected. A nod? A glare? Some kind of reaction that would let her feel like she still had a role in the story. But I didn't give her one. Not out of spite, out of peace. They had spoken loud and clear. They made their case, chose their angles, delivered their lines. Now it was over. I walked to the car, opened the door, and got in. Alex was asleep in the back seat, curled under his jacket, his bear wedged between his arms like it belonged there. The sun was going down. I adjusted the mirror, started the engine. Didn't look back once. Because they weren't behind me. Not anymore. The first traffic light turned yellow just as I pulled up. I stopped early, let the car idle. No rush. No noise. Just that strange kind of silence that feels heavier than sound. Alex shifted in the back seat, still asleep. One arm around the stuffed bear, the other tucked under his cheek. I reached over and opened the glove compartment. For a second, I just stared at it, that empty space where the memory card used to be. Gone now. Broken in 2. Because I didn't need the footage anymore. I didn't need the proof. I'd already lived it. I'd already answered the question, what kind of man stays quiet while his life is dismantled in real time? The answer? One who's not interested in revenge. Just truth. And a clean exit. The light turned green. I didn't move right away. Just sat there. One hand on the wheel, the other resting over the gear shift. Breathing. Not triumph. Not relief. Just stillness. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't numb either. I was awake. Present. The way you were when the storms passed and you're left picking up the pieces, not to rebuild what was, but to build something that might actually hold. I drove the rest of the way home without the radio. Pulled into the driveway. Carried Alex inside without waking him. Laid him in bed. The bear stayed in his arms the whole time. And then I sat on the couch, alone. No drone. No screens. No plans. Just me. A man who'd been erased on paper and redrawn in court. Who lost a marriage but saved a son. Who watched it all fall apart frame by frame and never blinked. It wasn't a happy ending. It was just an ending. And sometimes that's enough.